All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's a situation that's pretty interesting because a few years back, I would have conversation with people, and I'm saying, "Damn, that was a really good conversation. I wish it was recorded." So I actually started recording my conversations via a, 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 um, a program I called MA Power Talk. Now, at the time, all it really was over the phone. There was no videos. But of course, fast forward to today, we get an opportunity to see and hear from a variety of people. So today, this officially launches an MA Power Talk. Now, it's 9 o'clock right now. We have about 30 minutes within the schedule. And I'm introducing a gentleman that I consider him like my younger brother because martial arts industry is a family, guys. Any way you put it, it's a family. And in the family, you have all shapes and colors and sides and cousins, and you name it.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if he uses the title of Master or Grandmaster Brian Crump, but the bottom line is that we have from Maryland, my younger brother there, Brian Crump, or I should say Dr. Brian Crump. How you feeling, sir?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Jared?
Right.
Thanks.
So I know I pretty much just jumped on here and set you up for what would be. I know if I would have given you some more time, you would have probably fixed your hair up and stuff like that, But
I'm good. I'm good.
so anyway, so my thing with MA Power Talk is to get the insights of other people's mindsets. Now, mind you, we also combine a little bit of history, but it is a simple conversation. So you and I spoke a few months back, probably the first time extensively over the phone for a little
Right.
while.
Wow.
And it was based on some concerns and fears and the fact that we lost one of our loved ones, one of our elders in the industry, and that was the legendary Steve Nasty Anderson. And the thing about it was that I remember seeing him the last time at another funeral. I should say at a funeral, which was, you know, Little KA. And these guys were like big brothers to us, obviously, and some mentors. So let's talk about that little relationship that I know you had with Nasty Anderson.
Oh man. Well, that relationship started back in 1981, 82. I was 11, 12 years old. And it actually started at the Battle of Atlanta. Linda Dentley, she had known me, taken me under her wing and things like that. And the first chance we got, which was at the Battle of Atlanta, I want to say at the Omni Shoreham Hotel. Nasty was getting ready to, he had just won the grand championship. And Linda came and got me and introduced me to Nasty. And I was 11 years old. I didn't think he was going to remember. You're not thinking that somebody's going to remember you and things like that when you're 11 years old. But the crazy part about it, later that year, I think Joe Corley got the Battle of Atlanta in April. I think his term is always in April. Well, there was a promoter here in the DC area named Robert Everhart. He gave a tournament around November, and Nasty showed up. And when he showed up, he watched me compete. I was competing in junior teams. He stood there, watched, clapped for me, and next thing I know, it was just a tight relationship from that day forward. I would, that's just how it was. Then when I turned 15.
Okay, well, so let me just stop you for a second because I got to interject only because rest in peace to Robert Everhart. He used to do 3 tournaments a year, and the main one was the Tri-State, and that's the one that you're talking about referencing in November. And it was interesting because winning grand champion of that tournament, you would get a simulation of an Oscar or an Academy Award. And I remember Nasty would absolutely come out to that event. 1980, wow, 1985. 1985, I go to that tournament. I was going actually from earlier than that, so you might have seen my crew of New York coming down. Because yeah, nobody was coming down until I started bringing New York down, which is interesting, guys. Yeah. You could check the records, is the fact.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I remember I'm fighting for grand championship. First of all, they had the North versus the South, and it was the first time that the North actually won. and we won by 1 point. It was the first time I was ever on that so-called, what would have been makeshift teams. Because guys, teams weren't really teams. It was just you and you get together, and it's like a pickup game in basketball. That's the way it was. Or a school versus another school, or this city versus this city, or what have you. And it created even more excitement because you had to pick a side. Yeah. So the North versus South was happening, and Magic Johnson was coming up there with Flame Williamson and all those guys, and they were beating the South was beating the North. So they asked me to get down, and I'm like, all right, I'll get down. And I ended up fighting against Magic Johnson and Jerome Johnson. And I beat him 8-1. So in the team competition, for the first time ever, the North won by 1 point. So I think that maybe I had something to do with us winning, so to speak. But in the process, I hurt my wrist. And the reason I went to that event in particular, more so than this time, was because they were giving away the trip to Bermuda. If you won the grand champion there, you was winning the trip to Bermuda.
I remember that because I was a little kid. I was in juniors.
Right, you see, I wish I could go, right?
I was in juniors. I remember that, man. Those guys they used to hit
right
and rumble back then.
Of course. So now what happened was, my hand is hurt. I have to fight against 3 people to win my division. And all 3 people were phenomenal fighters. One was Keith McKinley, who I beat him by 1 point. Right? In other words, nobody scored on me that day, and I won by maybe 1 or 2 points. Not my normal style of fighting, being aggressive, but I had to be defensive because I had injured my wrist fighting against Magic Johnson and the teams, and I wanted to go to Bermuda in the worst way. So what ended up happening was I actually fought, rest in peace, and beat one of the best kickers I've ever seen. And Henry Grant was a monster. That guy was phenomenal.
From Baltimore, Henry Grant.
Oh my God. So I beat Henry Grant. I beat you call it Keith McKinley. And then the other guy that I beat, which was crazy, was Eddie Butcher, who was another monster. Now these 3 dudes regionally were phenomenal. Not that they couldn't do it nationally, they just decided to stay within the New York, Maryland. So let's say the mid-Atlantic areas where they really focus on there. Some of them, Eddie became a world champion in kickboxing too. So we talk about some phenomenal fighters, but for me to fight against them, it was intimidating to me, but no one could tell because I was a skinny young kid.
Right.
I used to front in the fast character, but inside I'm saying, damn, these dudes are dangerous. They were freaking, I seen Keith McKinley just annihilate people. Eddie Butcher was a freaking bully, man. He would take you out, his footwork. And Henry Grant walked around like nothing, but he would kick you with the left leg, the right leg, and just destroy you. Let's talk about, and by the way, and the reason I mention this is because I won grand champion by 1 point because I was injured, but Nasty Anderson was a center referee. And of course, right in the end, see, Nasty taught me how to do the dive bomb.
Right.
Billy Blanks taught me how to do the blitz, but Nasty taught me the dive bomb.
Dive bomb, right.
So let's talk about those guys, that I just mentioned, 3 dudes. What do you think about their skill set? Because to me, I put them as high as anybody. The only thing that they did not have was the same exposure.
Right. You talking about Keith McKinley and Butcher?
And also Henry Grant, rest in peace.
Now, being in this area, so I'm as lucky. In this area, those guys were there. Now, Keith would come down from Philly. But you didn't know because, matter of fact, I think he was in this area. I don't think he was in Philly at that time. I think he was down here. I don't know if he went to school.
He might have been because he went to school, so I'm not sure when he went to school.
He was down here quite a bit. And I remember
Region 10, baby.
Huh?
Region 10.
Yeah, Region 10. Keith was, all those guys were good point fighters. And being the junior coming up, having been able to meet those guys and talk to them, and the difference between now and then, we had tournaments every weekend. Every weekend for $25. I think it was $15 at one time. Then it went to $25 and $5 each additional event. So we competed every Saturday and Sunday. And to see those guys, it, like you said at the beginning, it became family. When they started seeing you and talking to you on this Saturday, the next Saturday they see you, next following weekend, it becomes a little bit more than just competitive. It's pretty much family. And always had a lot of respect for all those guys. Henry Grant, it was sad to hear about his death. But
what a kicker. That guy could kick like the freaking wind.
Right. And Eddie Butcher, I don't remember him so much in point fight. I remember him in kickboxing.
Well, just so you know, all three of those guys, the first time I saw Keith McKinley, it wasn't in point. He was actually kickboxing too. They all were kickboxers, kickboxing also. Guys, kickboxing back then was known as full contact. And we went from point karate and then we graduated to full contact. And that was the aspiration for me and everybody else. The only reason I didn't continue with that was because I made more money with the point. I'm like, what the hell? And I needed money because I was a father at age 17. That was my thing. But yeah. So Eddie Butcher became a world champion too.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't remember Henry Grant was a decent kickboxer. I think he was a kickboxing champion too. And I remember, just watching them. And then I never had the opportunity to compete against Keith and Henry because I'm as heavier than both of them. Butcher, I remember at the Battle of Baltimore, Burdock's national tournament, continuous contact. I had to fight some guy from North Carolina. I won that whole thing. That really put me up on the level, with you guys. I beat some guy from North Carolina. Then my next fight, I had to fight John Taylor, Leroy Taylor's brother. I beat him. Then I fought Leroy Taylor. I beat Leroy in continuous. And then I had to fight Butcher.
Hold on a second, guys. Just so you know the impact, what we're talking about here is there's a hybrid between point karate and what was kickbox, full contact, now known as kickboxing here in America. And you met at continuous contact. So point, continuous, full was the three-step ladder. A lot of these guys, like when I mentioned the team competition, Larry Hawkins was also on the team, and a bunch of dudes that used to parlay between point karate one day and then kick full contact the next day. And then if they had a continuous contact tournament, then they went there too. So just to give you a full perspective, and any way you put it, it was all good. Because these guys could fight point, they could do continuous, and they could do full contact. All of us did. My only challenge was this. Like, for example, most people don't realize I won the Waco United States Championship doing continuous. I never lost continuous contact. And there's a video of me and Stingo Garcia fighting. And my only challenge was that I did not have income coming in from anywhere else but martial arts, whether it was instruction and tournaments. So because of that, and I was a father, I had to use that as a vocation, where other guys were using that as a hangout because they already had regular jobs and what have you. But you fought the world champion super feet Leroy Taylor, who literally, when he lost his title, shouldn't have lost it because it was a headbutt against my other boy, Golden Boy Jerry Trimble. But
Battle of Atlanta. Battle of Atlanta. I'm a Zed. What? 85, 86.
So here you were, and I was amongst these people we looked up to, and then we happened to become competitive with them, and then eventually even at times beat them. So you're at that tournament, and you're fighting, and you beat.
I won the beat Butcher for the grand championship. We instead of 3 rounds, they asked me if I wanted to do 5. They didn't know I was amateur boxing at the time too, which was a big help. And I beat Butcher. But it all stayed in a respect manner. You know, when see a lot of people today, they get arrogant. They think because they won, people got to worship the ground. I say that when I go to some national tournaments, and I sit there and I'm like, they're ruining me. It wasn't like when I came up, you waited your turn. When you won, you knew how to conduct yourself. When you went in, you knew how to talk to people. You expected certain things.
But we also had mentors, and I don't think they have the same mentors today. So it comes back to everyone has a coach, and then we get an opportunity to be mentored by the right person. Now, mind you, just to be fair, guys, sometimes mentors have bad habits that we might have picked up without even wanting to or realizing they were bad habits. And I was really paranoid of that because I didn't want my mother whip my butt. And I think in your case, it was your daddy. I used to see your dad there all the time with you.
And I'm glad you said that because, like I said, and a lot of people don't know how Linda's like my godmother. And I remember going to national tournaments at 15, getting on the plane, going to hotel, staying by myself, just knowing I was going to cut up and be a fool, not knowing my parents talked to Linda. And when I got off the plane, got to the hotel, she knew I wasn't by myself.
They had you, man. It's like back in the days where the neighbor will whip your butt because you was out of line because the village, and this is it, guys. Martial arts, when properly utilized, it's a global village, man. I know people worldwide. I've stayed with people, you know, worldwide. I'm like, this is insane, you know, because sometimes you have relatives, people that have the same last names that aren't family because you don't have the relationship. And you have someone who you can barely understand because they're from another country, and when you go there, they open their doors and they're really family.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the martial arts. But Linda, you know, I would say out of everybody, Linda and Nasty mentored me. You know, I worked out with Nasty, trained when we go down to Harrisburg, Virginia, with them when I was young. But Linda, I mean, it's nothing for her to call my parents, put that boy in the plane and send him down here to me.
But Linda Dunley, guys, for those of you who don't realize, she's the best point fighter ever. Not man, not woman, ever, in my opinion. And I tell you why. I've seen her hit people with the left leg, with the right leg, the right hand, the left hand, sweep people, going kick people, you know, axe kicks, spinning hook kicks. And it's almost like she has done this longer than anybody, because you can go back to the 70s and she was doing the 80s, she was doing in the 90s. And right now, she could probably still beat me in basketball too, man, because she's no joke.
Yeah, I'm gonna say she's a heck of an athlete. Ran track, basketball. I mean, heck of an athlete. But I was blessed with both of those mentors. I couldn't go wrong with Nasty or Linda. And then they opened up the door for me to meet Terry, you know, the guys like yourself, Team Atlantic, things like that, you know. So it was just, you know, it was a big honor. And I remember watching you. I think you were fighting lightweight with Ibby.
Well, yeah. So no, I was actually a middleweight by the time Ibby came, but and let me explain something to you, only because this is what I realized has happened. I'm only 54, right? And obviously you're younger than me. But since I started young, people think I'm older. And the same thing with you. I'm sure people think you're older, only because I started young. I started fighting black belt men at age 16.
And I was 15.
Yeah. Well, 15, 16, 14, they all depend. If you had enough heart, they would allow you to do that in certain areas. Other areas that did the opposite, and they try to use the rule against you to try to keep you down, because they don't want to be embarrassed by a young kid. Now, of course, it was scary for you to step in that ring, but you had your dad that was supporting you there. In addition,
yeah, I'm gonna say, you know, my dad was always with me too.
And that's very, very important. So when I used to see your dad and a few other competitors that had their fathers, and I'm not sure if the kid, if you yourself or the other kids were happy with that during that time, because like, man, how come my dad? Because you wanted probably to, you know, you probably wanted to, like you said, have some fun, and you wasn't allowed to have the amount of fun you wanted to. They would pull that, and then you figure, well, when he's not around, I'm gonna be free. And then, you, like you said, now Uncle, I should say, Aunt Linda got you by the neck. To me, I looked at that as being so fortunate. Wow, you had a father involved. Because my father was incarcerated, and he supported me from a distance. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't involved in my day-to-day activities. But how did that feel?
It felt, you know, when you had somebody like Linda, and you see how everybody respects her and things like that. That's one thing. But then outside of martial arts, I mean, she's a nice, loving lady. You know. She'll do any and everything for you, you know, as long as you do her right. Don't.
Yeah, but she's tough. Tough love, for real, for real.
Say that, but Linda. So, like I said, I was fortunate to have that, Linda and Nasty, and with Linda, you know, she introduced me to people. I think she introduced me to you. Well, I met Kevin K.A. at Everhart's tournament when I had to fight him for a grand championship. Now, he almost ripped my chest open with a reverse punch. But, you know, now that's just the fighting. In this area, I know I could always pick up the phone and call John Chung or Charlie Lee. You know, and
you're talking about the cream of the crop right there. Like, you can't get any higher than that when it comes to for whatever it's worth. Not that you did it on purpose, but fighting and forms. So
Right.
someone would say, well, why would you be having a conversation with John Chung or Charlie
Well, I
Lee?
did
And
weapons
why
form.
would they even pick up the phone? People wouldn't
Right.
understand that. Why would they even take the phone call?
Right. Well, when I was coming up, I did weapons forms and fighting. Uh, weapons. Uh, it was really nobody on the national circuit. I can't think of the guy's name who did the samurai sword. I used to always see him down in
Well,
Dan.
the first guy was Dale Kirby. That was the first guy. And the
Right.
second guy, we don't like to mention him because he went away for pedophilia, man.
That's what I'm talking about. So we're not gonna say his name. That's what I'm talking about. So, but I never talked to him. I would see him. But forms and fighting, them as Charlie Lee and John Chung, although I wasn't at their school, I wasn't part of June Reed. In this area, everybody knew each other and you worked out. It didn't matter if you were kung fu type, it didn't matter. We would get together and work out. I never worked out with Charlie and John Chung, but competing against them, I was on their radar when competing against them in forms. And I never beat them, but they saw things that I was doing wrong. They would talk to me, pull me to the side. You should do this and things like that. And I don't see that nowadays at tournaments. You know,
The martial arts industry is a different world, guys. I mean, let's be honest. If you don't know any better, you would think that martial arts is a team sport. It's not a team sport. It never has been a team sport. It's an
right,
individual. And when we pick teams would be again, hey Brian, nasty, and get to. But what happened was when the teams came about with Budweiser, and yes, there was teams before that, but those teams pretty much were people from regions that just
right,
hung out together. It wasn't what would have been sponsored team. That
right,
changed the game to the worst. And I can only say this is because today is the remnants of what started way back when.
right,
When martial arts was a big global community, and it still is in many respects. You have people who are doing really well in business, and they're being mentored by other people who have no financial vested interest in it, and they give
right,
them information. It saddens me and it excites me at the same time. It saddens me to think that we don't have a place where we can feel comfortable at, but it excites me because we have technology and information and people still around that know better, that we just need to keep these people alive.
right, right,
Alive is key. Now, you've seen me, I've been talking about nutrition for many years. In recent years, those of you who've seen me on Facebook, you think it may be a new thing, but no. I was born as a sick child. I had 5 pneumonias by the age of 2, and I was chronically asthmatic. Martial arts is what helped me get me into a health atmosphere, having that asthma since I was very young, but supposedly it's supposed to still be in me, according to some doctors. The point still is that health first. And if it wasn't for health, I think a lot of our friends might have still been around. Let's talk about that for a second. How many people you see that are not in the state of what you would consider healthy?
right. Yeah, a lot of people, even in the martial art world, sport world, and things like that, outside the sport of martial art, people just got to start taking care of their body, putting the right foods with their drinking, eating in their body, taking the vitamins, getting the regular checkups. I'll be 50 in September. And I'm like, I just think about a lot of people who passed away who were sick. And I talk to this man all the time because I've never known him to be sick or anything. The good guy is Dennis Brown. And when I talk to Dennis, the one thing I learned about him, he's big in Kung Fu and he has a Capital Classics, US Capital Classics. He's a vegetarian. So talking to Dennis and knowing he's a vegetarian and having talked to so many other people
He's
who are
probably a
constantly,
vegan. He's probably even a vegan.
yeah.
Different levels.
So talking to Dennis, it made me want to change my lifestyle. I'm like, hey, I've known him since I was a little boy, and I've never known him to be sick.
And guys, just those of you who are listening, please, we only saying these people's names on first name basis because we know them that
Right,
long. There's no disrespect to the grandmasters and masters. These guys and girls are all legends that we wholeheartedly respect them,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Right. And I just called him last week, and it was Mr. Brown, Master Brown. Just talked to him last week. Because I call and check up on him and his wife, see how they're doing and things like that. But the health benefit, I just tell people martial arts is good with the exercises, the mental and the nutrition part that some people get away from. But you have to go outside your box. You have to go outside, talk to other people. And like I said, talking to Grandmaster Dennis Brown, I've never known him to be sick and things like that. So, I talked to him
Or
about
even heavy.
it. And the first thing he said was, is what he eat. I've gone to cookouts at his home, big cookouts at his home, and he has all kind of food, but what he's eating is his life.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second. A few months ago, I saw you, and you wasn't obviously in the physical shape that you're in right now. So in the last 3 months, during COVID, a lot of people have done the opposite. They've gained a bunch of weight and they lost what would be the strength of the immune system. What is it that you're committed to? I know that you've been doing videos as of late, and more than ever.
Well, a couple of things. Well, one, I want to try to get other people. Well, my background is in health and physical education, and we're not in school and things like that. So I want to push the physical part, the healthy part. That's the first reason, because I know people are sitting down and they're eating, putting on weight and things like that. And when doors open up, these fitness centers are going to make a killing at the beginning. And a lot of people just do stuff at home. My second reason, Dennis had asked me to fight in continuous contact at his tournament this year. But it was postponed. It's moved to November, so we're hoping it's still going. It's still going, and it's supposed to be a continuous fight against Eddie Butcher's son, Devin Butcher. And it's supposed to be on ESPN. So my background in martial sport, karate, and boxing, I'm putting everything together to get ready to do it one more time and continuous contact. So I post videos of just different exercises because people say, "Hey, man, you slim down," because in sport karate in 16, I won a world title as a heavyweight. And I was actually weighing in at 205. Now I'm 5'7". I shouldn't be anywhere near two anything. I got off the scale this morning at 187. I got down to 180, but Dennis' tournament was changed, so I put on a little weight. But by the end of this month,
is it weight that you put on, or is it muscle?
It was muscle and weight because I was using the weight. I was lifting weights, and with my body, if I lift weights, I'm not getting cut up as much as I want. It puts muscle weight on me. So, I've cut and just gone back to doing my natural exercises. But those are the reasons. But my main reason is try to save other people their headache.
So you want to lead by example, inspire others, because that's the reason why we've been teaching for years. And I think that's the responsibility of the elders in this village. The only challenge is that the village has been segmented so much, so it's like only these people go here, these people go there, and the younger people don't know who we are in many respects. Some of them do. Recently I've been interviewed by a few of the so-called now guys, and I'm giving them information because for whatever it's worth, man, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I have an elephant memory, and I'm able to remember things. And since I was in a lot of places where people weren't, I got to get this information out. You and I had a conversation not too long ago, and when we did, I remember you said to me, "This reminded you of back in the days when you had a chance to speak to other people." And I was like, "Man, you know what? That's thank you for letting me share. That's the way I feel."
Yeah, because you and I, we had a nice talk. We talked for almost an hour, and
And I wish that was recorded. See, that's what I mean. That was information that could have been recorded that's been gone now. Now this one's not. This one's being recorded, so we're not losing this.
Right. Yeah, but and like I told you, it reminded me of when I talked to Nasty. And see, I talked to Nasty all the way up until maybe 4 days before he passed away. And that got me big time when he passed away because he was talking so clear. The last time we talked for about an hour on the phone, and normally our conversations maybe 2 or 3 minutes if you know what he was diagnosed with. But this time we talked for about an hour, and I never forget he told me, he's like, yeah, look, little man, I want you to know one thing, I love you. And I'm like, wow. And I told him, he know I love him, and his wife, everybody know I love Nancy. He loved me. And but though our conversations, I just missed that. I never really had a relationship with the other guys on the team, on them was on the Atlantic team, like Anthony Price, Richard Plowden. Those are good guys, and Terry Kramer and the rest of them. But Nasty was the one that, grabbed me up at 11, 12 years old.
A lot of people don't realize that Steve Nasty Anderson was probably in competition with me in terms of the biggest fan of sport karate. This guy loved the forums, he loved the self-defense, he loved the demos, he loved the fighting. He looked around snatching people. He took me and showed me how to do a dive bomb. That doesn't make any sense, but it does when you think what people's heart really is. Now, mind you, he was on a character. His nickname was Nasty. Yeah. But at the same time, so he would do things sometimes that were out of character because he just got caught in the moment. But deep down inside, he really was a true martial arts fan,
right?
And with intentions of guiding people. Am I wrong? Or what do you say about that?
No, you're absolutely right. Nasty, I would say, was ahead of his time by maybe 5 or 6 years. If 5 or 6 years, if he would have waited, he probably would have been a world champion in the WWE, like some of the other guys who went from sport karate to that wrestling, WWE and all that, WWF at that time. Nasty had that kind of following. It's just that he was ahead of his time. And he was a show. I always called it a showman. I don't think anything that he did outside of winning, he did seriously. To earn the nickname now. I mean, he's done some things, but he Nasty played mind games with people.
Listen, the thing that my relationship with Nasty was pretty unique because he knew I wasn't like the rest in the sense that I ain't falling for that. I got my own character going on, Right. And then when those two characters hit, it was so much fun. But what was interesting, the last time I saw him, all he wanted to let his daughter know and confirmed by me that, hey, I used to dance, I used to laugh, and he used to break and we used to be there, so Nasty. That's why he wanted to get his props, not as a fighter in this case to his daughter, was because he knows I'm a dancer and we used to dance together. Right. My hairs are standing up thinking about it, man.
Yeah. And see how you had that memory. My memory, out of everything I've done with Nasty, I would say about 2 years before he passed away, he gave me a call and said, hey, I want you to help me do a seminar. And I'm sitting there looking at the phone. I'm like, you Nasty Anderson, help you do a seminar. And, I called Linda. I didn't know what to say. I mean, I've talked to Nasty all the time. I talked to Linda Dentley, and she's like, hey, if he called and asked you, go ahead and do it.
And 1 second, with all due respect, I just freed up another 15 minutes for myself. I don't know what your schedule is, but I noticed right now we're 3 minutes past. Are you okay for at least another 15 minutes?
I'm good. I have nowhere to go to 11 o'clock.
Okay, good enough. I just want to be respectful of time integrity, guys.
Right. And let me back up. I've been in Taekwondo since 1975. I didn't start competing to the 80s, early 80s.
Wow, you was young, man.
Right.
Wow. See, welfare didn't pay for martial arts. I joined an official school April 19th, 1976. But I was training 2 or 3 years before that in the streets, in the basements, in the parks. But your father must have had a job.
Yeah. Yep. But see, they had the Taekwondo program, and I started in kindergarten at my elementary school.
Oh, cool.
So I really want people to understand, I will never take anything away from these guys, this generation. But I can only speak on my generation because in the 80s I competed, early 90s I competed. I was on, Power Up. I was actually on Coors Beer Karate team with Dennis Brown. I was the only non-Kung Fu stylist on this team. Right. It was for one night, so that gave me
Let's stop this for a second. Guys, just so you understand, based on the fact that Budweiser actually had a team, that was sponsored, they were able to get some marketing dollars from Miller Lite, which is also part of Lowenbrow, and also Coors. But the difference was that Coors actually put some money for the tournament, and then so that the tournament, and they put together a team also. Um,
Right.
and it was so crazy to me because if you think about it, why would there be association of alcohol and martial arts, right? Only because one person actually did a relationship based on being the marketing director or having a client called Budweiser. So then everybody else had social proof that this is the way to go. When in reality, there's so many other industries that can and will be supporting this activity because it's really wholesome.
Right.
So not being anything but honest, I was on the Miller Lite team. They didn't have the same budget that Budweiser actually had. And you mentioned the Course team
First
and the
team.
Silver Bullet. You know, it was actually a tournament too that they had in Virginia, right? So
Right.
I'm just trying to reference some of the difference between the past and the present. My intention is this, and let me explain. I want to help people who are motivated to get educated, but I'm trying to get the educated to get motivated because there's a lot of people that will benefit from that. So when I reference them, guys, it's not by judgment, it's by actual historical facts. So like that we can learn from the past, make adjustments to make sure that this present and the future is brighter. So that's a long-winded version, but I just want you guys to understand that I remember these stages and what we're sharing is not fantasy. Hashtags facts.
Right.
What's
And
up?
see, with me, what benefited me, uh, in the early 90s, I started amateur boxing. Nasty had turned me on to boxing. A lot of people don't know. Nasty used to train in boxing. That's why he had that right hand that really
And
nobody,
wrestling.
yeah. But yeah, the wrestling, but he turned me on to the boxing. So I went and joined the Sugar Land Boxing Center just to help me out in sport karate. But I had done so well in training that they wanted me to start competing, and then I did. And so I moved away from sport karate, and I was gone for a while. And from as an amateur, I was ranked number 8 in the world as a welterweight. Then I turned professional, and then I decided I was going to use my college degree because amateur boxing paid. I was on scholarship. So when I graduated, I had a decision if I was going to continue boxing and go as far as I can and using my degree. Well, I met my beautiful my wife in '94, and I'm marrying her. So we got married, and I put boxing off to the side, and then I went back to sport karate. So there, I left but didn't leave, and through the whole time, only 2 people I really talked to, well, 3 people: Steve Anderson, Linda Dentley, and Andre Richardson.
Juggernaut, my man.
Yeah, and I take my hat off to Andre because he went out on a limb. I was competing down here, and next thing I know, I get a phone call from a gentleman in New York about being on his karate team, Power Up. And the only person I heard of from New York in New Jersey was you and KA.
So let me reference that for a second. Andre Juggernaut Richardson, who was the co-rookie of the year NASCAR along with Pedro Xavier in 1988. Him and I were on a team together. It was the Nightlife Karate Team, is what they called it. That
Yeah,
was the magazine. But then they also splinters off to what would have been Miller Lite at some point. But um, Andre Richardson, we used to work out with us because he was part of that team. And my God, he's done some incredible things. His thing was to find people that people wouldn't really notice, so to speak, like diamonds in the rough, because they weren't in the onto the circuit, but they deserve to get on the circuit. But that's a perfect example. Power Up really comes from a nutritional company that had a supplement for energy. See, that makes more sense than what cores or anything would be like. So, props to Andre Richardson, who wasn't just what you would consider a coach. He goes in there and kick butt.
yeah,
Right?
he
He
could.
fought with the best of the best, axe kick, probably one of the most agile big dudes doing techniques that Tony Young was doing in terms of spinning reverse punch and so on and
Yeah,
so forth. It's right. So he wasn't just a competitor, I should say a coach. My man was kicking some rear while negotiating a deal with a nutritional company for the
Right.
referees, right?
Yeah, you said it, and you know those guys a lot longer and things like that. But I take my hat off to Andre because, like you said, I'm as that, not being arrogant or anything like that. But I'm as that diamond in the rough in
Yeah.
Region 10. I dominated Region 10 and never knew anything about the Nationals until it goes back to Linda put me on the plan. She said, you dominate your area for 3 to 4 years. Then you go out on the national level. Now, when you go out there, if you win third place, third and second place, be happy. Because you're out there with what she called it top dogs. She
So
gave me
this is interesting because there's no local circuit anymore.
right. You gotta, I got a guy, he told me he's going to Tennessee to this tournament, West Virginia. And I'm just thinking, well, a lot of the guys in my area have passed away who used to get the tournaments, you know, passed away. But there's no reason why other people shouldn't pick it up. I know Ron Jenkins, he's talking about giving a tournament, whatever. Now we got to deal with the coronavirus.
But
You know,
this is what I'm saying, and I this mission that I am on started with an actual tournament circuit called UMAN back in 2008, and it was because I would give a lot of information business wise to the so-called powers that be, while still being in the crazy fasty character. So people thought that this is wild, crazy Puerto Rican from New York doing his crazy stuff, but then they didn't realize I was the businessman on the other part. So my vocabulary would change accordingly. And
right,
people don't know that, but the average person just didn't. So I got tired of giving the information to people and then using a portion of it, not doing it right. Because all I thought about was the competitor. That's it.
right,
And they were in a situation where their business model wasn't conducive for them to even earn income. And we assumed that the promoters were earning a lot of money. They really weren't because the overhead was too high, I should say.
yeah,
So I was like, wait
yeah,
a second, this makes no sense. So I came up with a business model that some people have used a portion of it, but all it really was this. You're the competitor, I'm the promoter, and at some point there's a school owner that might be involved. He also might be a competitor. Well,
right,
how can you have in the tournament without the so-called partner, meaning the school owner, not even getting a cut out of the deal? It
yeah,
made no sense. It's supposed to be a joint venture partnership. Now, in addition to that, if you win grand champion at my tournament, technically speaking, you're my champion. See, that's the mindset of yesteryear. And if
yeah.
you're my
And,
champion, that means I get you
and remember,
seminars.
back in the '80s when you won a grand champion, if you won a grand champion in '88 and the promoter gave a tournament in '89,
You're
you
defending
were the grand
champion.
champion.
Right.
You
And you
you
might have
were
been so you might have 4 or 5 tournaments that you're the defending champion in, and you
right.
might have done 2 or 3 seminars at the schools because of it. So there was alternative ways to earn income as opposed to being at the mercy of some team or sugar daddy giving you the money. That
Yeah.
wasn't the deal. Now, how could you honestly fight against someone you're on the same team with the same vigor and intensity when last week you were nemesis? I think it destroyed the sport. What do you think about that?
Well, I saw it firsthand. You take the team that was in this area. I wasn't on that team. Ibby,
DK,
Hakeem, Austin,
DKT, DKT,
they were
Force One.
they were all on that team, and you know, and I did, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt a certain way because I dominated the area for so long, and I wasn't asked to try out for the team, you know, uh, things like that. But other people came along. Andre Richardson picked me up, but I watched the guys, and Linda told me, she said, that's a good thing you're not on the team because what happened is when you're training with them, their fighting will go up and you'll be on one level trying to figure out what's going on. Next thing you know, they're beating you. So when we had that talk, I was like, okay, cool. I can live with it and things like that. But being on
But
that team,
let me tell you something about that, guys, just so you know. See, Linda Donnelly didn't drink the Kool-Aid. She was on teams, but she was still an individual. And
right,
she knew that the people she was competing against, and my student, Nicole Quest, was on the Atlantic Oil team with her too. but when Linda fought anybody, she made sure she brought it. Her relationship was closer to John Doyce, the actual financer of Atlantic Oil, than she was against Shavella Aaron, who was on the same
Right,
team. But Linda knew her place, and her place was to make sure that she stayed focused and didn't
right,
just sell out in disrespect. We're
right.
gonna split the money, so now we're not really gonna fight.
Nah,
But now what happens to the show
it
and the
goes
spectators?
right. So like I said, I was just fortunate. So when I left with the amateur and professional boxing, because I had a great career, when I came back, I was in what's that? The Dixieland Nationals. Sitting there with Andre Don Rodriguez, and we were talking. Him and I, we really never hit it off when I was younger, but as older, we put all that stuff behind us, and we were sitting there talking. And little young girl, she won her division with a red hand. So I called over and I talked to her and I asked her if she ever heard of Linda Dentley, and she told me no. And I said, I told Don right there, and I said, that's the problem in sport karate. The people don't know the history. People don't know who they can look up to. And I told Don, I said, like, I was known for reverse punch. I always reference Steve Nasty Anderson, working out with him, learning the inside and out, so why he does the reverse punch, things like that. So Don and I, we saw the same thing, and we talked about it. And I told him the last kid that I know really took everything to heart was John Valera, and he learned that from, I want to say, Charlie Lee. I think Charlie Lee put a lot into him in the forums, and then he exploded. But
Just real quick on the John Valera tip, him and I were on the team for a second. One day, I've been invited to be on a whole bunch of teams. I just never cooperate because I would have my own money. So
right,
being a martial arts woman, but
team,
I got on Team Prestige just to try to make sure that my student exotic, wouldn't go the wrong way. And Valera obviously was on that team. It didn't last too long, but that's where a lot of the people you just mentioned were also part of that. Prestige being a car dealership. That's franchise, I believe, or licensed throughout the country. But we have a solution, man. See, instead of being old man complaining, I see you doing exercises and sharing. The only difference is that, for whatever it's worth, I've been able to organize things a little better. Like, not to brag, but if you see, these are major newspapers, at least.
right,
That is only daily. This is, Newsday and local papers. And this photo over here that you see, actually right this way. That photo there, that happens to be a Getty image that was shot for the Daily News. So it's in the archives over there in London.
right,
So how could this, and then of course, if you see right there, actually I should go there, you see me as a B-boy, and that was at the Palladium where Crazy Legs and Mr. Wigg was behind me. And that's Inside Kung Fu that you see there, that magazine there was. So
right,
back then we used to get media. I'm sure you got a lot of local newspapers.
right. Yeah. I was always, in this area, I want to say I had videos and articles and pictures, news articles, things like that from the late 80s. And matter of fact, I was telling you in a joking way, we met June Reed's funeral, memorial service. And I said, man, I remember I was 16 years old, had my own school, and I was on the news. And went to a tournament, and Burdock June Reed pulled up, and he waited for me to get out the car, and we talking. I'm like, man, June Reed, he's called me by name. I'm not one of his students, and he got
part of the village, part of the global village.
Yeah, he told my dad. He said, I want to talk to your son. So my dad was like, go ahead, and he pulled me to the side, and I never forget these words. June Reed told me, he said, I saw you on Channel 7. Good interview. You're making good money.
Okay, let's reference that for a second, guys, because what wasn't recorded between you and I was a fact. I mentioned how I did these power talks, and normally power talks are separated into two types of people. One person is the so-called competitor, the other person was the so-called business person, and very few people during the 80s or even possibly now were both people. In my
Right.
case, martial arts became my vocation. I was a father at age 17, so I was going to be a father at 16, and I figured if I can make $100, $200 in the weekend, extra money, competing. Well, that's making as much as I could with my minimum wage job. So that was like
Right.
a bonus. And if I could win 500 and somewhere in the country you can find the 500 back in the
Mm.
days, and it was worth a heck of a lot more than today. You understand? So when I started opening up my martial arts operation, I wanted to learn from those people who've been there, done that, who knew how to run the operation as a business, but I never, and you don't have to, sell out in terms of the quality of what you teach. So you can
Right.
have quality and quantity if you do things right. And that's the reason why I wasn't on a lot of teams, because I did not like the direction the sport was going towards, because the nighttime show was a farce to me.
Yeah.
So what do
Yeah.
you think about some of those things I just mentioned there?
Uh, it, it was a livelihood, and like you said, I'm 16 years old, got my own school because, hey, I needed money in my pocket and things like that. So I say, hey, I'll teach a class 2 to 4 nights a week and go from there, and I was doing pretty good. But at this tournament outside, I never forget. Junior called me over, and we're talking. I wasn't saying impressed, but I'm feeling good. I'm talking to the man himself, and he goes, "Give me $10,000." He said, "Look, this for you. Give me 10." He said, "I'm not going to do this for anybody else, but you give me $10,000, and I guarantee you'll make more money." Now I'm 16. You give me $100, I'm happy. This man talking about $10,000. Before I realized, I was talking, man, I can't do that. And we talked. He laughed. He was like, "Well, talk it over with your parents and things like that." But I never even mentioned it to my dad. My dad was like, he just saw me and Jewelry. We just dying laughing because I told him, you give me $100, I'm fine. You talking about $10,000? I'm 16. But looking at it later, and it wasn't until you said it, you was like, that was a bad move. You should have went on and done it because business wise, could have opened up the doors for me financially in that way. So I never forget those things, so I'm not so quick to say no now.
Right. And listen, and that's the thing that is really interesting, guys. Opportunities come, and sometimes we don't notice. We don't notice them, and that's why there you can reference back to a time now, way back when. How young is your youngest child?
My triplets are 12 years old.
Okay, triplets. Wow. So you got more than your hands full. In 4 years, which happened like that, they'll be the age that you was approached by Grandmaster Jun Lee.
John
Time
Reed.
flies, right? Now, just recently, guys, this is no bragging, please understand. I'm not putting these things to try to impress anybody. I'm just trying to impress upon you that it's possible. I was able to get mass media attention in New York City via martial arts, and I didn't kill anybody. That's normally the press that you get, karate killer or something like that, right? And I didn't rape anyone, statutory rape, which is probably the most
Yeah.
that I've seen in terms of media attention and is negative when it comes to martial arts. However, for me to have a conversation similar to this 2 weeks ago, and there's three of us, and the third person is a multi-billionaire, the letter B, billionaire. I'm like, how does God put me in a position to be able to help people with what I love to do? And I'm at the top of the pile. Now, mind you, it's only because I've been successful in just 2.5 months. And I'm sure that if I wasn't able to have any progress, I wouldn't be having this conversation with this lady. You
Right.
saw possibly a little bit of a guy, rest in peace to his dad, Cameron Dawson. And I was having a conversation with him because everyone needs what would be a form of guidance and mentoring. What did you think about that?
Yeah. Everybody. Hey, if somebody in anything tell me they did it by themselves, they didn't have anybody to look up to, they didn't talk to anybody. get away from me. I don't want to hear that. You gotta have somebody that you gotta run things across to. You gotta have somebody who's been there and done that. You know, and you take in my area. On one of my videos I posted when they talk about businesses, because you and I just talk, and I kind of use that in our conversation. I said in this area, people say what they want, but if I were to open up a school, I'm going to Ron Jenkins. Why? He's had a school since the 80s. Never closed down, never moved locations, no anything, but had people coming in and out of his school, consistently. And I met Ron in maybe 80, 84, 85, something like that, and just know. So if I were to have a school again, which I'm going to do, I'll pick his brain and find out, hey, what are you doing? And I think that's what this generation is missing. That everybody want to come in and do it themselves instead of talking to
Well,
people.
well, in your case, you was fortunate. Again, I'm gonna reference back to your dad. I mean, I gotta say that that's gonna be the influence because everything that I do making sure that my mother is not embarrassed, even to this very day. So
Right.
I just want to be a good boy. And we were taught that if you're in a room, let the elders speak and you'll be seen, not heard. Right. So these old concepts are at the same time we're also taught, you got one mouth and two ears, use them in that equation and you learn it. And we always, so that mentorship usually came from not so much parents, it came from grandparents. Because for some reason, grandparents were better at grandparenting than they were at being parents. But the point still is always going to be an elder that's going to guide you. And there isn't an established group of elders that literally are giving and having this connection or interconnection with people.
Right.
They are doing it only with what would be competition. And competition today, in my respect, is gangs. The gangs are running the streets, and the authorities do not have any authority.
Right.
So what else can you have than anarchy and havoc? In addition to that, they also are taking children who aren't part of the gang that should be winning, and they are ripping them off just because they're saying, "Oh, just keep coming." Like, what are you talking about? If I was good today, then I should be able to win today. So by definition, it's a different model that I personally would not put my students or anybody in there. I still go because I'm an a-hole. I go in there to blow up the whole thing. I'll beat the whole team.
Right.
No, and that's the reason why same thing with you, right? We went in there, was like, wait a second, this is what's hot. You guys a team, man, I'll beat all you guys and then go in there and do it. And they'll be like, what happened? Where does this guy come from? Or most of them knew who I was, or maybe some of them knew who you was. Let's talk about that, being the so-called arch nemesis against the society.
Yeah, and not even so, I'll say sport karate with the DKT team. It would just be, I had videos, a VHS video, you could just see them lined up. There's how the tournaments were. Only guys on that team I didn't beat were Hakeem and Shaw Austin. Ron Jenkins, he beat me when I was 15, so I really want to say that counts. And Greg May. After that, smoked everybody else I competed against. So, but that was just the drive. I wasn't going to, you just got to have that instinct. But it also had to go over to when you weren't competing, hey, you still had to be a person. You couldn't be arrogant. You couldn't be big-headed, anything like that. You're a human being. But it was like a light switch. But when it was time to compete, and the one person I think I got, matter of fact, I learned at Dennis Brown's tournament in '84. I was the last competitor in forms, and then I did a arrogant move at the end and didn't place at all. And that was like the biggest thing in the world that ever helped. Two things that helped me learn that don't make no boneheaded move to be different and things like
so it's interesting because what you're saying there was out of line, right? Today there's standards. You notice how they finish this form? Ah!
Yeah. Now
So
I did
what you're saying that might have been out of line
right.
today is the status quo.
Pro, yeah. But back then, you better not. I did some boneheaded move, man, and
But you understand what I'm talking about? How crazy it is? What's known as being out of line
line.
is the status quo. So we have flipped 180. The
Yeah,
judge was authority. Oh my
right.
God, you got a line and someone was yelling and screaming, they'll disqualify you because they're yelling and screaming sometimes. They had control over the situation, policing it, so to speak. But
Right.
now those kids and the parents yell and scream and even curse at the center referee.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen that at tournaments. I'm like, man, I remember back in the day, you better not have been a parent, better not have been opening up their mouth, knock them out, this, that. And I did that. I was a center judge at a local tournament, and a parent was telling the child to knock the kid out, hit him as hard as he can, it was something. And I heard him, and I stopped the division, and I told the parent, I said, excuse me. I said, you don't know me. I'm going to introduce myself. I said, everybody here know me except you. You open up your mouth again like that, your child is disqualified.
Now that right there is called proper. However, how did it come about? What did she say?
Well, the dad, he sat there, and he wanted to go back and forth. I said, look, I'm center judge. I'm telling you like this. If you open up your mouth like this again, your child is disqualified. Simple as that. I said, what you need to do is go over there and keep quiet. I said, this is a point tournament. It's not boxing. We don't do knockouts here. You tell your child again. So I just kept saying, and the dad, he looked at me. He saw I wasn't playing, and then I have a way about me too. I can get pretty aggressive to it, especially when you're talking about hurting someone.
Children.
And I think this is like 8, 9 years old, but he was giving them the wrong idea. And the dad, he went and talked to somebody. He stayed in line. When the tournament's over, he came up and apologized to me. He said, hey, I respect you. I respect what you said. I didn't know. This is my first tournament. I said, yeah. I explained to him, I said, this sport is not designed like that.
The sad thing about it is that people don't know the difference today. See, that
Right.
would have just went, what would have happened in the situation, as sad as it is,
Right.
the referee doing what he's supposed to do would have got a conversation with the promoter who would have said, we can't do that. Imagine this. The promoter would say, you can't do that because we want to make sure that they're happy. So then you would say, then I ain't coming back again. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way. Otherwise, I'm not coming back. That's how we lost a lot of the leadership that knew better, because the promoters, based on what happened and changed, all of a sudden gave in to nonsense.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Right. I definitely agree. And it's just a lot to it when you're a black belt and you're judging and refereeing. You have to know the rules, but you also have to know what's going on. I was judging one time black belt division with Terry Kramer. And first time ever judging with him. Terry, he's pretty good. But I saw something he didn't see with a judge. And I stopped the division, went over. Terry's looking at me like, hold on, you're not the head judge. And I told the judge, I said, this is your last ring that you're working. Not ring, but this is the last fighting session that you're working. We get another judge. You're late on a call, and nobody, people are complaining. And I don't want to come back on Terry and myself. And Terry thanked me on it, because he said he didn't even notice that the guy was just so long and giving the points and things like that. And I said, I saw a problem coming, and just told the guy, bow, we get another judge to come in. And
well, so let's just be fair. The average so-called judge has never been properly trained, and just because you're a competitor of the past doesn't mean you was a good judge or even instructor. But realistically, when you're doing this with the intentions of doing the right thing,
Right.
Now you will make sure that you pay attention with your eyes and your ears. Um, Southwest
Can't
Airlines,
hear.
Southwest Airlines is known as being great when it comes to customer service, and they interviewed a whole bunch of potential what would be flight attendants. And what they
Right.
told them was that we're gonna, you have to come up front and do a speech, and we're gonna determine that's part of the interview process. So they assumed that the quality of the speech itself was what they were being judged on, but in reality, they were being judged on the attentiveness of the spectator
Right.
who was listening because you're in a service providing industry having to worry about the other person.
Right.
That being the case, it's really based on character. Not everybody should be a judge. Not everybody should be a promoter. Not everybody just because they're good at martial arts should be an educator, because those things add other components to what would be the end result
Right.
or the
And
strategy.
yeah, and I think people, you know, I have an experience. Like I said, used to box. I met Sugar Ray Leonard. He mentored me when I was boxing, and he turned me on to a lot of things. Gave me different outlooks in the ring, outside the ring, how to conduct myself in interviews and things like that. So I just think in this day, even in martial, especially in martial arts, the upcoming people, they don't know how to handle themselves. They don't know how to conduct themselves. I wish guys like Billy Blanks could come back and just do a seminar on how. I remember in '93, I was with Dennis, not Dennis, Billy. We went to go to dinner. We were sitting there talking. Now, remember, I always talk about Nasty and Linda. I never really talked to Billy, but Billy has taught me how he found out I was boxing. He used to box, and he had told me, he was telling me about Tybo before it came out. I think Tybo came out that Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I saw it on the info commercial, but he couldn't really tell me about it. But I think guys like Billy, if he were to do a seminar at a tournament, he would get an excellent turnout, and that could be a start of things. Guys like yourself and Andre, you're not so much on the competition side, but on the business side.
Well, again, so what I did years ago is I started a unified martial arts network. And my initial tournament was in Bolton, England. So there's people from the UK and abroad that respect us a lot quicker. You get praised more in another village, as I heard
Right.
in my experience. That's the case.
Like
Um,
DJ, a lot of stuff.
yeah. So fast forward to today, I call that the gatekeepers. Martial arts need gatekeepers, and these gatekeepers literally have to be the gate of your mind, body, and your spirit. And that's why you see me. There's no way in life that I am not going to share information with people when it comes to health. Because fitness, my brother died with six pack abs, man. You can look good on the outside and in the inside have a compromised system. And that's the reason why you're passing away during COVID. So I don't care what block or technique you do, nothing's going to keep you safer than a strong immune system. And that goes hand in glove with what would be the holistic approach to martial arts. The difference between the Chinese arts and the other styles is that they still have their relationship. When if you can ask, you know, Master Brown, tell him that you have an injury, he'll give you some things for it. He'll have. I mean, that's what martial arts is supposed to be for the purpose of increasing the quality of your life. It's self-improvement. So that self-improvement includes inside and outside. Even the Gracie family has the Gracie diet at the highest level. So again, with the gatekeepers, and I can't lie, I'm pretty happy. On one end, I got a 23-year-old Cameron Dawson as a gatekeeper. And on the other end, I have Grandmaster Joe Corley, probably the greatest Renaissance man in martial arts. He's done some. I mean, like yesterday, when I spoke to him, I had to call him back because he was in the middle of his run. But the guy's been around the block a little longer than us. He's still training every single day.
Okay.
You've
Right.
never seen him out of shape. And
Right.
he's in company with other people that have similar mind. But as a gatekeeper, we have to make sure that we lead by example, which is what you're doing. I'm
Right.
think you've seen me in recent months. My body has transformed.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, man, Jerry, you was heavy at one time. You slimmed down. Yeah.
What happened with me was that I was training wrong. I was training like I was a young kid. And your
Right.
body changes, you know that. So I was training 3 times a day. So that means that's the perfect example of overtraining. I was gaining muscle, like what you mentioned. So the weight went higher, but I wasn't losing weight. So I gained muscle and the scale just kept going up. I got to 248 pounds and I was so frustrated because I'm like, oh my God, I had this
I'm working
backpack
out.
had this backpack that my knees and everything else just has to handle. So I made some slight adjustments. Now, the way I did it was crazy, and I gotta say it like that because I went into an extreme. Forget vegan. I wasn't even eating broccoli. I'm talking about I wasn't even eating no hybrid food, only 100% electric food. Things that I can honestly say was a pain in the freaking neck and a little lower to do. But that's what I ended up doing. And in addition to that, I was doing my breathing from 1/2. I can hold my breath between 3 and 4 minutes. I went into the extreme level because I was dealing with extreme um, condition, according to me. And then once I hit the threshold, then my brain cleared out for some other options. So today, for someone to get the result that I had, I can tell them an easy way to do it.
Right.
I didn't have it before. My easy way
Yeah.
to do it is this. Like right now, in a few minutes, I'm gonna make my vanilla shake that has inside of it everything that I need, but I'm gonna throw in a scoop of all the vegetables. And people saying, what are you talking about? Instant? Yeah, you know why? Because even when you're having organic food, it just has less pesticide in it. That's all it is less. So we're not really in control of the crops and so on and so forth, but we are in control of other alternatives. So I'm happy to say that presently, business wise, I'm getting paid from the United States, UK, South Korea, and Canada so far in 2.5 months. And what is it that I'm getting paid on? Helping people either lose weight, gain energy, eliminate pain in their body, the inflammation. Guys, oxidative stress increases your inflammation in your joints. When you have antioxidants, I don't mean of one banana. I mean creating and helping your body create the antioxidants. Because what happens is this: free radicals attack your body by the tens of thousands. Then we eat one antioxidant trying to offset that. Come on, that's not going to work. But your body makes what would be antioxidants if you are able to give it what it needs, and that comes in herbs and so on and so forth. However, just because you have turmeric doesn't mean that you have the right compound to make it really work. Bottom line is that I'm not a freaking scientist. I just sound like one. The
Right.
truth of the matter is, I take these freaking 2 pills twice a day, and because of that, I can sleep 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and wake up ready to go because my body went into the deep realm and I'm feeding it the nourishment what it needs, not food, nutrition. There's a difference because you can go to any fast food restaurant and not even come out with food. That's not food. That's called poison. And how do you know? This is a hint. After
Yeah.
you eat, doesn't matter. You get the itis, and the itis is across the board in any what would be culture. In reality, when you have food that's energizing, it
Yeah.
wakes you up. My
Right.
shake's gonna wake me up. And most people have no idea of the difference. So I don't blame anyone. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying that I made more mistakes than the majority of the people, and I had to find a solution to make life easier for me and help keep my family and friends alive. And it breaks my heart when I hear how somebody else has passed away and it was done with a combination of culture, a knife, and a fork that committed
Yeah.
suicide.
And
What do you think about that?
yeah, hey, I'm right there with you. Like I said, as you said earlier, I do the videos of exercise and things like that. And when I do it, I talk about the nutrition. I tell people about foods and things like that. I just hope they're listening and
See what you just
trying.
said there? So this is what I did. I had to be real.
Right.
I got to keep it simple. So if I told you, listen, I have these shakes. Everyone got shakes. No, it's a big difference. It helps you make your body alkaline.
Right.
In an alkaline state, your body cannot be sick. So these shakes help you get alkaline and they taste great. In addition to that, Take these 2 pills twice a day. What's in the pills? Nothing but botanicals. Try that for about a week or two. 3, if you don't feel anything, get your money back.
Right.
100% guarantee, no what
Right.
would be pressure. However, if you do feel something, you have 2 options. Continue taking them, no problem. And or if you want to have this as a side hustle to help people stay alive,
Yeah,
bro,
and
let me
we're
tell you
gonna.
something.
I'm definitely connect with you. See.
My side hustle has become my main thing now. And
Right.
I'm like, what? I'm like, I didn't even do anything. What I did
Right.
was told a few people about the truth. Now I said, let me organize this properly. And that's how I came up with the gatekeepers. Imagine having all the regions that we had before back in the days, region one,
What
two,
was
three.
it? 12,
How,
13 now?
how much fun would that be? Now, imagine this. The only way someone could be part of the gatekeepers is 2 things. They got to have their health together. Because why have a conversation, God forbid it, if I knew someone was going to pass away? The conversation will be different. It's about how
Right.
much I love them, not about finances, not about tournaments,
Right.
health. But you also need wealth. Why wealth? You can't take the monies that you presently have because that's just enough to make ends meet now. You need
Right.
another stream of income that does not jeopardize your existing cash flow. Now, with that additional stream of income, now you have options to be able to do things. And what I see that we're going to do is have the tournaments the way we knew how they were supposed to be, the
Right.
guidance from what would be things like this, and also referencing a whole bunch of other people that generations don't know. In other words, we still have a chance right now because
Right.
most of us are still here. 10 years from now, so many more people are going to be gone. 10 weeks from now. So I'm trying to help people stay alive so we can really take care of things that are really exciting. Imagine if I said to you, yo, we're going to have a team. Region 11 is going to fight against Region 10 over at Region 9. And whoever wins that is going to fight against whoever won between Region 1 and 2. And the
Right.
age bracket is 40, 50, and 60. And bro,
Yeah. Yeah. And
fun.
you talking about some good action here.
That's what I'm talking about. See, that action is what keeps us alive.
Right.
Endorphins, you know that once your body
Right.
starts creating endorphins and the happy drugs, we're able to keep ourselves
Keep
alive,
going.
right? But now another thing too, I've been known to being pretty flexible. Well, I've shared my strategies of how to stretch. However, in the gatekeepers, I go into more details. So how someone becomes a member of the gatekeepers? Well, we can't have everybody be leaders, because not everybody deserves to be a so-called leader.
Right.
They're gonna come. So the 2 things that they have to do, really simple. They have to be part of the company I'm with, and I'll show you why. Because with that, I know that they're gonna have the right mindset. Health-wise, it's easy, and it's gonna earn them some more money on the side. Because now with health and income, then we can do those other things, investing in having the tournaments, plural,
Right. You know.
negotiating with the sponsors that are consistent with the values. For example, not today, not right now, but somewhere around 3 or 4 o'clock, I might go through a little less energy, maybe. But instead of taking a nap, I'll have some adaptogens. Now, most people don't have no idea what adaptogens are, but it's the equivalent to what would be Red Bull without it being anything that hits your heart. It's not dangerous for you. It won't kill you. It's the opposite. It's a botanical made out of mushrooms that helps you with your energy in your brain. And it does not have any side effects. What it has is side benefits, because that's what happens normally. You take a drug, you have side effects. You take nutrition, you have multiple benefits.
Right. Yo, I'm gonna talk to you on the side. I'm gonna give you a call sometime this week about some of the vitamin things like that. See if I get my hands on some
Well,
of them.
but this is what I'm saying. Honestly, that's my long-term goal, guys. Keep people healthy, man. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. There's nothing wrong with that, man. It's our responsibilities as elders in the village to be able to share quality information. If I told you that I had a sciatic nerve problem, and I had this from age 19 to 38, and years ago, me taking a product that was natural called mangosteen, the actual fruit, not mango, mangosteen, from a company called Zango. And when I took that, 6 months after, my sciatic nerve is gone, and to this very day I don't have it. But then I don't know what happened to the company. Well, we just acquired that company. My point is that there's solutions out there, guys, and our intentions is to help, but sometimes we need help
Right.
to be able to help. And that's what the gatekeepers are all about. Coming together, leaders, to be able to become a better leader. So when you have a conversation, this could have been 5, 10 of us.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I appreciate your time. I got my
Right.
phone going crazy. I know you got somebody over there. I missed 2 meetings, but it was worth it to me.
I got one question for you before you
Sir.
leave.
Yes.
Anybody heard from Lee Allen? I've been trying to call, I was on this executive edge team. I always call him to say, hey, how you doing? But last month or two, I've been calling. I haven't been able to catch up with him.
You know what's interesting? And I'm checking my phone right now. The last time I actually reached out to him, he didn't respond either. So now I'm a little worried. So we're sending positive energy and love to Edward Lee Island, Stagger Lee, also known when he was a promoter, not in martial arts, but in the music industry. And
Oh,
I'm gonna reach out to him. He's a Capricorn brother with me too. So see,
yeah,
again,
that's my man.
we want to make. I was an executive edge for a second also because you know why? He's the one that brought me back. There was a time where I didn't spar for 5 years, and Lee
Right.
Island to me made a phone call. Actually, not a phone call. Saw me at a tournament, and he inspired me. I'm like, what? I guess he
Right.
did the same thing to you.
Yeah, I won second place at the Capital Classics in 15, and that was my first time competing in like years. And right after I won second place, I heard him go, Brian Crumb, and I turned. He's like, I'm Lee Allen. I said, man, I haven't seen you in years. And he said, I got to talk to you. And we exchanged numbers. And that Monday, he called me and said he asked me if I would like to represent his team. I was like, wow.
Guys, I want you all to know that one of the best men in the history of martial arts is Stagger Lee Edward Island.
Yeah.
This gentleman who's been gone for about 2 years, give and take, was heartbroken because of a few things that happened to him in the industry. But if it wasn't for him, anyone who competes 40 and above will be making less than zero. He financed a lot of the events, even for other people's tournaments, for his so-called executive edge, which included a whole bunch of us, yes, me included. And he motivated me to come back, and I owe him because I don't know if I would have came back, to be honest with you.
And I'm in the same boat. If it wasn't have been for him, because it started with Michael Dietrich wanting me to try out for the Waco, and down in Texas, I was using Dennis tournament as just a tune-up. But then come to find out, I qualified at Dennis tournament somehow. But when Lee came up and talked to me, and then that Monday, oh man, I'm like, man, I feel like I was born again because he gave me a second life in the sport.
So that being the case, on the shoulders of Lee Island, I will continue along with other people of similar mind worldwide to create a group of leaders, hence gatekeepers, who will be helping by leading by example, but they'll be working together for the purpose of stepping up their game because they just want to stay alive. Since we do have children and grandchildren, if we're going to be alive, we might as well look kind of good in the process. And there's nothing wrong earning some income at the same time too. That's the way I see it, and that's the so-called plan. And when you saw someone like Cameron Dawson, he got it. See, he understood what I was talking about, even though he's only 23.
Right. Wow.
Anyhow, any last parting words, sir? We went on in a tangent, but this will be put in this entirety. But I'm also going to do it in bits and pieces of it too. And the people who are going to probably enjoy this the most will be us, because we're going to, hey man, I forgot to say this, and I don't like the way I said that, and I should have had my hair like this, and we're our biggest critics anyway you put it. So any parting words, brother?
No, I just hope the people listening did learn something, a little history of sport karate, not so much our era and now, but just learn a lot from everything Jerry was saying and some of the things that I'm saying. I hope it hit home for everyone. And at the most, take care of your bodies, spiritually, mentally, and physically, and everything else will work out.
So the only other thing that I would like to get from you is a public commitment for us to be able to interview you in the future again, to maybe get into some more details. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. And like I said, uh, I'm getting ready for that continuous contact match because I beat Eddie Butcher and now I have the opportunity to fight his son. So that'll be a first. Beat the dad, then beat the son.
Region
So
10 in the house. All right. On that note, when I say AB, I want you to say see ya. AB,
see you.
we out of here. I appreciate it, guys. God bless. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, brother.
You too. Have a good one.